Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Tonight's case begins with a woman who thought she had found someone she could trust with her life. A woman who had no children of her own, no husband waiting for her at home, and very few people she could truly rely on. But there was one person she loved, like family. One person she welcomed into her home, trusted with her finances, trusted with her health, and trusted with her future. For years, that person stood beside her during hospital visits, helped her pay bills, brought her groceries, and cared for her when she was too weak to care for herself. To everyone looking from the outside, it seemed like an extraordinary act of kindness. But what if the person she trusted most was hiding a secret? What if the person who promised to take care of her was actually the greatest danger in her life? And what if the weapon used to end her life wasn't a gun, a knife, or a bottle of pills? Something sitting in millions of homes across America? Stay with me, because this is the shocking story of Lynn Hernan. A mysterious death that baffled investigators, and a murder weapon so unexpected that even experienced detectives struggled to believe it. Lynn Hernan was born in June of 1956 and spent most of her life in Wisconsin. Friends described her as elegant, cheerful, and incredibly generous. She owned a salon and worked as a hairdresser for many years. Lynn loved looking her best. Whether she was going to a special event or simply running errands, she always made sure her hair was perfect, her nails were done, and her jewelry matched her outfit. She had a warm personality that naturally attracted people to her. Although Lynn never married and never had children of her own, she built strong friendships that lasted for decades. One of those friendships would eventually change the course of her life. For many years, Lynn was close friends with a woman named Jennifer Flower. Through that friendship, Lynn became a familiar presence in Jennifer's daughter's life. That daughter was Jessie Kerseski. Lynn watched Jessie grow up. Family photographs showed birthdays, celebrations, and happy moments shared over many years. To Lynn, Jessie wasn't just her best friend's daughter. She was almost like family. Some people would later say that Lynn loved Jessie as if she were her own child. But while Lynn's life appeared stable and successful, Jessie's life followed a very different path. Jessie struggled with legal problems for years. She was eventually convicted of forgery and identity theft, and spent time behind bars. After serving her sentence, she was released from prison in 2016. Around that same time, Lynn's health began to decline dramatically. Doctors couldn't seem to figure out exactly what was wrong with her. She suffered from severe gastrointestinal issues, chronic pain, high blood pressure, and breathing problems. Her condition became so complicated that she spent years moving in and out of hospitals, clinics, and specialist appointments. Despite countless medical evaluations, nobody could provide a clear answer. Her health continued to worsen, and she became increasingly dependent on others. That's when Jessie stepped into the role of caregiver. At first, it seemed like a perfect arrangement. Jessie helped Lynn around the house, drove her to appointments, picked up medications, handled errands, and assisted with daily tasks. As Lynn became weaker, Jessie became more involved in every aspect of her life. Eventually, Jessie was helping manage Lynn's finances, paying bills, organizing paperwork, and making important decisions. Lynn trusted her completely. The relationship appeared unusually close. Jessie spent so much time caring for Lynn that many people assumed she was simply helping someone she loved. After all, Lynn had been there for Jessie throughout her life. Now Jessie was returning the favor. But behind closed doors, things were becoming more complicated. As months passed, Lynn's health continued to deteriorate. She frequently complained of feeling sick. Sometimes she became so ill that she required hospitalization. Doctors ran tests again and again, searching for answers that never seemed to come. Friends and neighbors noticed how weak she had become. Yet despite all the medical attention, nobody could identify the true cause of her suffering. Then came September 2018. Lynn suffered a fall at home and was admitted to the hospital. Medical staff wanted her to stay longer for rehabilitation, but Lynn insisted on returning home. She was frustrated, exhausted, tired of being poked, tested, and questioned without receiving any real answers. After being discharged, she returned to her condominium. Only a few days later, everything changed. On the 3rd of October 2018, emergency dispatchers received a call from Jessie Kerseski. She reported finding Lynn unconscious and unresponsive inside her home. Paramedics rushed to the scene, but there was nothing they could do. Lynn Hernan was pronounced dead. At first glance, the scene seemed straightforward. Lynn's body was found in a recliner in her living room. Nearby were numerous prescription medications. Investigators noticed crushed pills on her chest and additional crushed medication on a plate beside her. Given Lynn's medical history and the evidence surrounding her body, authorities initially considered the possibility of an overdose. Perhaps she had accidentally taken too much medication. Perhaps she had intentionally ended her own life. Both explanations appeared possible. When investigators questioned Jessie, she suggested that suicide could not be ruled out. According to her, Lynn had become increasingly frustrated with her health problems. She claimed Lynn was tired of being sick and tired of doctors who couldn't provide answers. Jessie told investigators that Lynn had recently discussed important documents, talked about her pets, and expressed fears about being placed in a nursing home. To some investigators, those details sounded significant. Maybe Lynn had simply reached a breaking point. Maybe years of suffering had finally become too much. Maybe the case was exactly what it appeared to be. But as investigators continued looking deeper, strange details began to emerge. Neighbors who knew Lynn described her differently. They didn't believe she was suicidal. Friends insisted she still cared deeply about her future. Others found it unusual that someone supposedly planning to end her life had made no clear preparations and left no note behind. Then another troubling question surfaced. Why was Jessie so deeply involved in every aspect of Lynn's life? The more detectives examined the relationship, the more concerns they discovered. Jessie wasn't merely helping with household chores. She had significant access to Lynn's finances. She helped manage accounts. She handled payments. She knew exactly how much money Lynn had and where it was kept. As investigators began reviewing financial records, they noticed large sums of money moving from Lynn's accounts to Jessie over the years. The amounts were shocking. What initially looked like occasional assistance appeared to be tens of thousands of dollars. Then the numbers grew even larger. Meanwhile, Jessie repeatedly contacted authorities, asking about the progress of Lynn's autopsy. She wanted updates. She wanted answers. She wanted to know what investigators had found. Weeks passed, then months. Finally, the medical examiner's office completed the toxicology testing. What they discovered would completely change the direction of the investigation. Inside Lynn's bloodstream was a substance that should never have been there. A dangerous chemical called tetrahydrozoline. Most people have never heard that name before, yet millions unknowingly keep it inside their homes every day. Tetrahydrozoline is commonly found in certain eye drops, products designed to reduce redness and irritation, products intended to be placed in the eyes, not swallowed. Medical experts knew immediately something was wrong. The concentration found in Lynn's body was impossible to explain through normal use. No one could absorb that amount simply by using eye drops as directed. According to experts, the levels indicated ingestion. Someone had consumed it, and at those levels, it could be deadly. Suddenly, the entire case looked different. If Lynn hadn't died from her prescription medications, then why were crushed pills scattered around her body? If eye drops were responsible, where was the container? And if Lynn consumed the substance herself, why did the scene seem designed to draw attention toward an overdose instead? Investigators began considering a terrifying possibility. What if the scene had been staged? What if someone wanted authorities to believe Lynn died from medication when the real cause was hidden somewhere else? As detectives re-examined every detail, one fact became impossible to ignore. The person with the greatest access to Lynn's home, her medications, her finances, and her daily routine was the very same person who claimed to be caring for her. The very same person who discovered her body. the very same person she trusted more than anyone else, Jesse Kerseski. And as investigators prepared to dig deeper into Lynn's finances, her final days, and Jesse's role in both, they would uncover secrets that no one saw coming. Secrets involving hundreds of thousands of dollars, conflicting stories, and a trail of evidence that would eventually lead to one of Wisconsin's most disturbing murder cases. But what detectives were about to discover next would raise an even more chilling question. Was Lynn Hernan's death a tragic suicide, or had someone been slowly poisoning her for years? The discovery of tetrahydrozoline in Lynn Hernan's body changed everything. What had initially looked like a possible overdose, or even a suicide, suddenly became the center of a homicide investigation. Detectives now faced a disturbing question. How had a deadly amount of a chemical commonly found in eye drops ended up inside Lynn's system? Medical experts were clear about one thing. The concentration discovered during toxicology testing could not be explained by normal use. Someone had either intentionally consumed a large quantity of the substance, or someone had given it to her. As investigators reviewed every detail of the case, they found themselves returning to the same person again and again, Jesse Kerseski. She was Lynn's caregiver, financial helper, power of attorney, and according to many people, the person closest to her in the final years of her life. Detectives decided it was time to take a much deeper look at Jesse's relationship with Lynn, and what they uncovered raised serious concerns. Financial records revealed that enormous amounts of money had flowed from Lynn to Jesse over several years. What Jesse initially described as occasional help from a generous friend turned out to be far more substantial. Investigators estimated that Lynn had provided Jesse with nearly $200,000, and some calculations suggested the amount might be even higher. During interviews, Jesse acknowledged receiving money but insisted Lynn had given it willingly. According to Jesse, Lynn knew about her financial struggles and wanted to help. She claimed there was nothing unusual about the transfers, and that Lynn considered her family. However, detectives couldn't ignore the timing. As Lynn's health declined and her dependence on Jesse increased, the financial support appeared to increase as well. Investigators began questioning whether Lynn fully understood how much money was leaving her accounts. They also wondered whether Jesse's growing access to Lynn's finances gave her a motive to keep that arrangement going for as long as possible. As the investigation continued, detectives learned that several people close to Lynn had their own suspicions. One witness told authorities that Jesse and her mother seemed to be benefiting from Lynn's death. Another pointed out that after Lynn died, Jesse appeared to take control of her belongings, use her vehicle, and handle her property as if it already belonged to her. Lynn's cousin became especially concerned after learning that Jesse stood to inherit much of Lynn's estate. Knowing Jesse's history of forgery and fraud convictions, he feared something wasn't right. Those concerns only grew stronger once the toxicology results became public. Detectives soon brought Jessie back for another interview. This time, they confronted her with the toxicology findings. Jessie appeared surprised when investigators mentioned tetrahydrozoline. She admitted purchasing eye drops for Lynn but denied ever seeing her drink them. According to Jessie, Lynn used eye drops constantly and went through bottle after bottle because her eyes were always dry. She even suggested investigators would find numerous eye drop containers throughout the house. But detectives pointed out something troubling. Despite finding many medications near Lynn's body, they had not found the eye drop bottle they would expect if Lynn had consumed the substance herself. Jessie insisted the bottles had been there. She claimed investigators must have missed them. Yet the more questions detectives asked, the more inconsistencies began appearing in her story. At one point, investigators informed Jessie that the medical examiner believed Lynn's death was being treated as a possible homicide. Jessie seemed shocked. She repeatedly denied harming Lynn and insisted she couldn't think of anyone who would want her dead. But detectives weren't finished. They shifted the conversation toward money. They presented evidence showing Lynn had provided Jessie with extraordinary amounts of financial assistance over the years. When detectives suggested the total might approach $200,000, Jessie admitted it was possible. She acknowledged receiving large sums, but maintained that Lynn gave the money willingly. Detectives pushed harder. They pointed out that Jesse had extensive control over Lynn's finances and knew exactly how much money remained in her accounts. As they saw it, Jesse was uniquely positioned to benefit from Lynn's dependence, yet Jesse continued denying any wrongdoing. She argued that Lynn was like family and that she would never hurt her. During another interview, investigators challenged Jesse about additional evidence they had gathered. They questioned her about loans, credit cards, and financial transactions connected to Lynn's accounts. They also confronted her with the results of a polygraph examination. According to detectives, Jesse had performed poorly. Jesse strongly disagreed and insisted she was telling the truth. But investigators believed her explanations were becoming increasingly difficult to reconcile with the evidence. Then something unexpected happened. Jesse's version of events began to change. Instead of completely denying any involvement with the eye drops, she started suggesting that Lynn herself had researched tetrahydrozoline and believed it could be used to end her life. Jesse claimed Lynn had become desperate because of her declining health and had been searching for a way to die. According to this new version of events, Lynn allegedly mixed eye drops with alcohol and experimented with consuming them. Jesse described incidents where Lynn became sick after drinking the mixture. She claimed Lynn was intentionally looking for an escape from her suffering. Detectives immediately noticed a problem. This explanation had never appeared in Jesse's earlier statements. If Lynn had truly been experimenting with eye drops before her death, why hadn't Jesse mentioned it sooner? Why wait until after learning investigators suspected homicide? The shifting story only increased suspicion. As pressure mounted, detectives continued interviewing Jesse for days. Eventually, her statements became even more damaging. During one emotional conversation, Jesse appeared to admit that she had purchased the eye drops and provided them to Lynn. However, she insisted she was not committing murder. Instead, she portrayed herself as someone who had merely helped a suffering friend carry out her own wishes. Jesse claimed Lynn wanted to die and had repeatedly asked for the eye drops. She argued that Lynn knew exactly what she was doing and that she never forced anything on her. According to Jesse, she simply gave Lynn access to something Lynn had already decided to use. Detectives listened carefully. From their perspective, the admission was significant. Even if Jesse's version were true, she was acknowledging a role in the events leading to Lynn's death. But investigators weren't convinced by the assisted suicide explanation. They believed the evidence pointed in a different direction. The financial motive remained impossible to ignore. They also questioned why someone who supposedly wanted to help a friend die would stage a scene involving crushed pills and misleading evidence. The investigation took another major turn when detectives interviewed Jesse's former boyfriend, Scott Craig. Scott described conversations he had with Jesse after Lynn's death that immediately caught investigators' attention. According to Scott, Jesse admitted she had helped Lynn kill herself by providing eye drops after Lynn claimed she wanted to die. Scott recalled Jesse explaining that both of them knew the eye drops could be lethal. However, Scott also described something else that troubled investigators. After Lynn's death, Jesse seemed to have access to considerable amounts of money. She bought expensive gifts, spent freely, and displayed a level of financial comfort that appeared unusual given her circumstances. To detectives, Scott's statements reinforced their concerns about motive. Meanwhile, investigators continued examining Lynn's financial records. What they discovered was staggering. Tens of thousands of dollars had been transferred from Lynn's accounts to Jesse over time. Some transactions appeared highly questionable. Investigators also uncovered evidence suggesting money continued disappearing after Lynn's death. According to authorities, nearly $16,000 could not be properly accounted for. Detectives believed false documents had been created to justify certain payments and withdrawals. The deeper they looked, the more they suspected theft had accompanied homicide. Months of investigation eventually led prosecutors to a decision. Jesse Kerseski would be charged with first-degree intentional homicide. She would also face theft-related charges connected to Lynn's finances and estate. For Jesse, the consequences were enormous. She maintained that Lynn had taken her own life and that she was being unfairly blamed for a tragedy she tried to prevent. Prosecutors saw something entirely different. They believed Lynn had been manipulated, financially exploited, and ultimately murdered by the very person she trusted most. As preparations for trial began, both sides knew the courtroom battle ahead would determine not only how Lynn died, but whether Jessie Kerseski would spend the rest of her life behind bars. And when jurors finally heard the evidence, they would be forced to answer a chilling question. Was Jessie a devoted caregiver caught in a terrible misunderstanding? Or was she a calculating predator who saw more value in Lynn's death than in her life? When Jessie Kerseski's trial finally began in October 2023, nearly 5 years had passed since Lynn Hernan was found dead inside her Wisconsin condominium. During those years, investigators, forensic experts, prosecutors, and defense attorneys had spent countless hours examining every detail of the case. Now it was time for a jury to decide what really happened. The courtroom quickly became the stage for two completely different versions of the same story. Prosecutors argued that Lynn Hernan was the victim of a calculated murder committed by a woman she trusted like family. The defense argued that Lynn had been a seriously ill woman who chose to end her own life, and that Jessie was being blamed for a decision she never made. From the very beginning, prosecutors focused on motive. They told jurors that while motive was not legally required to prove murder, it helped explain why Lynn became a target. According to the state, Jessie had gained extraordinary access to Lynn's life. She controlled many aspects of her finances, helped manage her accounts, and benefited from a constant flow of money. Prosecutors argued that over time, Jessie became financially dependent on Lynn and eventually saw more value in Lynn's death than in her continued survival. The state claimed that Lynn's declining health created the perfect opportunity. As jurors listened, prosecutors laid out evidence showing the massive financial transfers that had occurred before Lynn's death. They argued that Jessie had already received well over $100,000 and stood to benefit even further after Lynn died. According to the prosecution, this was not the story of a devoted caregiver. It was the story of a woman exploiting a vulnerable victim. One of the most important witnesses was the detective who responded to Lynn's death scene and later helped lead the investigation. He testified that several details immediately struck him as unusual. The crushed pills found on Lynn's chest and around her body did not fit the typical pattern he had observed in suicide cases. Even more troubling was the absence of any clear evidence that Lynn had consumed the substance that actually killed her. The jury learned that despite the discovery of tetrahydrozoline in her body, investigators did not find the eye drop container they would have expected near the scene. The detective explained that in many overdose or suicide cases, investigators usually locate the product responsible for the death nearby. In Lynn's case, that critical piece of evidence appeared to be missing. Prosecutors suggested that someone may have intentionally removed it. The medical examiner's testimony became another critical moment in the trial. She explained that Lynn's cause of death was poisoning by tetrahydrozoline, and that she classified the manner of death as homicide. According to her analysis, the evidence pointed toward administration by another person rather than self-ingestion. She described how the physical evidence at the scene did not match what she would expect if Lynn had independently consumed a fatal amount of the chemical. The jury listened carefully as medical experts explained the toxicology findings and why they believed the death was inconsistent with an accident. The defense fought back aggressively. Their attorneys argued that the prosecution's case relied heavily on assumptions. They pointed out that Lynn had suffered from severe health problems for years and had become increasingly frustrated with her condition. Witnesses testified about Lynn's declining physical state, her repeated hospital visits, and her emotional exhaustion. The defense argued that Lynn was capable of making her own decisions and suggested she had intentionally consumed the eye drops herself. They portrayed Jessie as a loyal companion who had spent years caring for someone she loved. According to the defense, Jessie's financial support from Lynn was not evidence of theft, but evidence of generosity. They argued that Lynn willingly gave Jessie money because she viewed her almost as a daughter. To support their position, the defense called a toxicology expert who challenged some of the state's conclusions. He testified about the amount of tetrahydrozoline found in Lynn's stomach and explained that certain aspects of the toxicology evidence could not definitively establish exactly how the substance had been consumed. While he did not claim Lynn's death was definitely a suicide, his testimony gave the defense a basis to argue that alternative explanations still existed. Throughout the trial, jurors also heard testimony from Jesse's former boyfriend, Scott Craig. His statements proved especially damaging. Scott described conversations he had with Jesse after Lynn's death, in which she allegedly admitted helping Lynn obtain the eye drops. According to Scott, Jesse claimed Lynn wanted to die and knew the substance could be fatal. Prosecutors argued that these admissions demonstrated Jesse's direct involvement in the events leading to Lynn's death. The defense attempted to undermine Scott's credibility, but the testimony remained a significant piece of evidence. Financial records presented during the trial painted an equally troubling picture. Investigators walked jurors through account statements, checks, transfers, and expenditures linked to Lynn's money. They described how large amounts of cash moved from Lynn's accounts to Jesse over several years. Jurors also learned about transactions that occurred after Lynn's death, including purchases and withdrawals that investigators considered highly suspicious. Prosecutors argued that Jesse had taken advantage of her position of trust to gain access to Lynn's finances. The state further alleged that false documents had been used to justify certain financial transactions. By the time financial investigators finished testifying, the prosecution had built a narrative suggesting that Jesse's relationship with Lynn provided both motive and opportunity. As the trial entered its final stages, both sides delivered powerful closing arguments. Prosecutors told jurors that the evidence revealed a clear pattern of deception. They reminded the jury about Jesse's prior convictions involving fraud and forgery. They highlighted her changing stories during police interviews. They pointed to the financial benefits she received and the admissions she allegedly made to others. Most importantly, they emphasized the medical examiner's conclusion that Lynn's death was a homicide. According to the prosecution, Lynn did not kill herself. She was poisoned by someone she trusted. The defense responded by arguing that the state had failed to eliminate reasonable doubt. They reminded jurors that no one witnessed the poisoning. They argued that Lynn's health struggles, emotional state, and personal circumstances made suicide a plausible explanation. They also stressed that Lynn voluntarily gave money to Jesse and cared deeply about her. According to the defense, the prosecution had constructed a theory based on suspicion rather than certainty. After 3 weeks of testimony and nearly 40 witnesses, the case was finally handed to the jury. Deliberations lasted 2 days. During that time, both sides waited anxiously as jurors reviewed thousands of pages of evidence and considered the competing narratives. Then, on the 14th of November 2023, the jury returned to the courtroom with its decision. The atmosphere was tense as the verdict was read aloud. Jurors found Jesse Kerseski guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. They also found her guilty of theft-related charges connected to Lynn's property and finances. For prosecutors, the verdict represented validation of years of investigative work. For Jesse, it marked the collapse of her defense and the beginning of a new reality. Yet the case was not entirely over. Several months later, the court reconvened for sentencing. Friends and loved ones of Lynn finally had an opportunity to address the woman they believed was responsible for her death. Emotional victim impact statements filled the courtroom. Some described Lynn as kind, generous, and trusting. Others spoke of the devastation caused by her death and the betrayal they believed she suffered. The anger directed at Jesse was intense. Family members and friends portrayed her as someone who had taken advantage of Lynn's compassion and ultimately destroyed her life. Jesse's mother also spoke during the hearing. She maintained her belief that Lynn had taken her own life and insisted her daughter was innocent. Jessie herself addressed the court and continued to deny murdering Lynn. She argued that she never poisoned her, never forced anything upon her, and never intended for her to die. According to Jesse, Lynn's death resulted from Lynn's own actions, not hers. But the judge was unconvinced. During sentencing, the judge delivered a powerful statement reflecting on the evidence presented throughout the trial. She questioned whether Lynn may have been poisoned over a much longer period than investigators initially realized. The judge noted that Lynn's unexplained illnesses seemed to intensify after Jesse became deeply involved in her daily life. She pointed out that Lynn's health appeared to improve during hospital stays when Jesse had less direct access to her. While these observations went beyond the jury's specific findings, they reflected the judge's belief that Jesse had targeted Lynn for personal gain. Ultimately, the court imposed a life sentence for the murder conviction. The judge ordered additional consecutive sentences for the theft convictions, ensuring that Jesse would spend decades behind bars before becoming eligible for release. By structuring the sentence this way, the judge intended to hold Jesse accountable not only for Lynn's death but also for the financial exploitation that accompanied it. As the hearing concluded, the long and complicated case that began with a mysterious death finally reached its legal conclusion. Lynn Hernan had spent years searching for answers about her declining health. She trusted the person closest to her, believing that person was helping her through the most difficult chapter of her life. Instead, prosecutors argued that trust became the very thing that made her vulnerable. Whether viewed as a calculated murder, a shocking betrayal, or one of the most unusual poisoning cases in recent memory, the story left behind a haunting lesson. Sometimes the greatest danger does not come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people we trust the most. And for Lynn Hernan, that trust ultimately came at the highest possible cost.